Alright, so then, after that ridiculous previous game, we do have again Chris versus bacgioifro, and this time we have got a Arabia Hun War, which is something we've not seen them play yet, and it looks like they're just playing all different civs on all different maps, and really just duking it out to see who can take the most amount of games, I guess, until they get bored. Though I don't think they're exactly doing a best of series as such. One thing though to note is that Chris is 4-0 ahead, and I've got to say, bacgioifro has put in some tremendous efforts in these series, especially on the Baltic game. He really did do a really good play on that. I do think he is one of those up-and-coming players who can definitely give us some surprises. So it would be nice to see him actually get a game from Chris. I know Chris is, like, you know, all-time legend player, but it still would be good to see bacgioifro managing to get at least one game from him. I would like to think. But anyway, we do have Chris up in green to the north of the map as Huns, and bacgioifro in blue down to the bottom left-ish sort of side. And someone actually suggested to me that I use the clock sort of mechanism. So we've got 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, etc. And we could do that. We could say, okay, so he's in like the 8 o'clock position, and I guess that kind of works actually. But I don't know. I kind of like saying left-ish bottom sort of area. But yeah, VNS bacgioifro, I guess he's in the 8 o'clock position, and Orcus Chris in 12 o'clock. It doesn't really matter so much exactly where they're positioned when we're spectating anyway, because at the end of the day, it's down to them to scout where their opponents are, and that they will find them. So we know that they're going to find each other, and that they are actually going to end up fighting at some point in this game. But anyway, VNS bacgioifro, as I was saying, he is one of those players. He's up and coming. Well, I suppose you could say up and coming. He's been around for a while, but I mean, he is really starting to shine quite a bit. He actually messaged me earlier saying, hey, can you contact Doubt for me, because I can't get hold of him. I actually want to do a series with Doubt and play games versus Doubt. So bacgioifro is trying to pitch himself against the very best. He's putting himself against Chris, he's putting himself against Doubt, and I think he is very determined to make a name for himself and actually provide some really good recorded games. So I'm looking forward to see what is in store today. Of course, Arabia Hun Wars are pretty common. They're like the bread and butter of 1v1 Age of Empires, and it's one of the most common matchups, I think, played at a high level. So, I mean, it's not going to be anything out of the ordinary, I don't think, unless Chris tries something strange again, like he did on the Continental game, where he decided to forward, which was, I think that was kind of a nice thing to do. We'll see if he does anything out of the ordinary. I mean, one of these players could decide to put up a forward, or they could play it a little safer, wall up slightly, and try and wall up. This is Arabia, so it's not always that easy, but try and play it a little more safe, and play things more standard. One thing that has changed a lot though in the last few years of AOC is the way that Arabia's played. I mean, the new sort of style, as it's called, is to get up to the castle age in a quick enough time so that you can get the cavalry archers out as fast as possible. And the longer you stay in feudal, which, as much as I love, because I actually love seeing long feudal wars, it just really doesn't happen anymore, because players are trying to get to the castle age as quickly as they can. You may have saw that game yesterday where I was showing you PL Peel and his teammate who resigned because he was getting 2v1'd. He didn't even bother taking gold. They just wanted to go for a nice feudal war, and some players just love to do that, and I love to watch that. But things have sort of changed a little, and it does mean that players tend to go for a faster castle time with cavalry archers, and if the opponent decides to go for knights, then again cavalry archers are an answer to that, because they're cheaper, and once you've massed them up to the sort of required number, you can still one-shot any knight anyway. So it's pretty much kind of got a bit boring, I guess you could say, which is why I much prefer to see games that aren't on Arabia and aren't Hun Wars. But nevertheless, players are going to keep playing them anyway, because, as I said, it is kind of the bread and butter of Age of Empires, and it's the most popular matchup. But, you know, for actually playing it, it is one of the best ways to improve, because it does make you work on all of those finer details, especially in mirror civ matchups, because there's less variables between the two players. So there's a lot more that comes down to actual player skill rather than a little bit of luck factor with getting random civs. One thing I've noted here though is bacgioifro taking a little bit. Oh, it's not that early. I had the game on fast, so time is actually 9.5 minutes. I was going to say he's taking gold very early, but no, he's not actually taking gold that early because it's actually 9 minutes 40 in. So I'll put things back to normal speed for now, I think. bacgioifro are going to stick his barracks up on the front. Chris already starting to wall up and actually using 3 villagers to do so, which does mean that Chris is wasting, well, not really wasting, but 3 villagers aren't gathering resources, they're just building walls. bacgioifro, on the other hand, is actually just using all of his villagers to collect resources. He's not really walling up at all, but he has put his barracks on the front, which is a nice idea, as his gold is on the front as well, and that might kind of prompt him to play a little bit of a more aggressive game in order to protect his gold and keep Chris locked up in his base. We're seeing bacgioifro go straight for archers. He's not actually going to go for scouts this game. And we get an idea what Chris is doing in just a moment, as his second building is going to come down, and that's a stable. So Chris is going to go for scouts, bacgioifro are going to go for archers, but bacgioifro's already got his scout into Chris's base, so he does know exactly what Chris is up to. One thing to show here though, bacgioifro's got his scout trapped again. The last time he was scouting with his king and it got trapped. This time he's scouting with his scout cavalry and it's trapped. But as I was saying a while back with the GML games with Chris and Doubt at the end, when I was commentating with Whack, I said Chris has got quite a unique walling style, and I think whatever his situation, he always manages to wall it, and he's actually creates walls that use his town centre a lot, forcing units to go through his town centre, rather than trying to span this huge gap here. He'll just put a few units in front and to the side of his TC and force a small choke point that units have to go through to get to the rest of his economy. So I do like that from him. bacgioifro did escape with his scout though. Chris is chasing him down, seeing what he's up to, but he left a little hole up here which he sneaked through. Right now we do have bacgioifro pushing across the map with 2 spearmen and a archer. I think he obviously added the extra spearmen in to counteract the fact that Chris has gone for scouts, and that makes a lot of sense really. I mean, if you see your opponents going for scouts, why not add the extra spearmen? It's still going to take the same time for them to get over there, as the archers travel at pretty much the same speed. So bacgioifro going to go with that, and okay, I was going to say, it doesn't look like Chris is actually making any scouts, but he just held back a little bit there until it actually made any. He's not got any more queued up, just 1 coming out right now, and he's going to see that bacgioifro's got some spears there, so he might decide to try and just go around the side and hit bacgioifro back at home. I mean, bacgioifro hasn't got his wood protected, he's just got 1 spearman protecting his gold, nothing too major. But bacgioifro isn't actually... Oh, there we go, he's adding the stable. I was going to say he isn't actually adding any other military production. Usually when you see flushing going on like this, you see 2 archery ranges and a blacksmith. This time he's gone for an archery range and a stable. Other variations can be a stable and 2 archery ranges and a blacksmith, as Chris is obviously doing here. But it's interesting because bacgioifro's gone for an archery range and then adding a stable in. So I don't know if he's trying to catch Chris off guard, because Chris is... I think he's seen yeah, he's... Oh no, hang on. Has he seen... No, he hasn't seen the archery range, so... he might have done, yeah, he's probably seen the archery range, so he knows that bacgioifro is going for archers, and he might trick out some skirmishers, in which case, if bacgioifro's got some scouts there as well, then he'll be able to cut through the skirmishers and... there we go, he's making skirms. So then he'll be able to cut through the skirmishers and make good use of that. One thing... Oh, I thought, I was going to say, one thing I did think there, that Chris actually walled the gold out of his base, but no, the gold is back here. He's just starting to take some now, because he is of course going to go for archers in the long run, and at the moment he is just going to make a skirm or 2. bacgioifro back at home has got his stable up, he's made another knight as well, sorry, another scout as well, and it looks like, yeah, he's trying to catch Chris off guard a little bit there, but Chris of course seeing that stable, he knows that bacgioifro is going for scouts and archers, and you probably won't go for too many scouts, because scouts do delay your castle time. If you're making a lot of scouts, 80 food a piece, you just need a lot of farms, and in order to get a lot of farms you need to take a lot of wood, and it just takes a long while to build your economy up to get to do a fast castle time if you are going for all-out scouts. So that's why players usually transition to archers anyway. But we do see bacgioifro coming forwards with a lumberjack. Don't die to the scout, that would be a bad idea, because what is he doing? He could have just moved this way and protected his There we go. Okay, he's going to move out the way now. A little bit late, but he's going to keep it alive just. It looks like he's going to try and put a tower up on this gold or something. Right here it would be a good position, and he's going to put it just to the right of that. So I think if he does actually tower that, that could be good. It's going to force Chris off of gold, and of course if Chris doesn't have any gold, then he certainly can't make any archers, and it will slow him down to the castle age as well. But I think, oh, Chris not actually seeing it, because Chris's scouts are on this side at the moment. He's hugging to this hill for a little bit, so he can actually attack down the hill and try and gain a little hill advantage. But if he sees this tower, he will very quickly build a tower of his own. But it looks like bacgioifro is going to keep him at bay. Oh, yep, he's going to see the tower right there, and he might react. Okay, he's not actually reacting all that quickly. I thought he would have put a tower up of his own real quick, but he's not doing just that at all. So we see Chris pushing out with his skirms right there, but I don't think bacgioifro has really got enough scouts. One is on very low HP. He's had to kind of abandon that tower. Chris has kind of overpowered him a little bit there, and bacgioifro is coming back with his villager, and that's not really ideal. He's probably going to try and get that back up, but Chris is coming out and going to wall it in with a villager, which is a great idea, as bacgioifro has fallen backward to meet up with the rest of his army, and by the time he gets over there, it's probably going to be walled, and that tower is going to be a little bit of a failure. And it's kind of unfortunate that that is the case, because it's never an ideal situation to have to build a tower in the feudal age, but of course if you do tower and manage to make it worthwhile, that's great, but of course if it gets shut down, or if you have to build a tower in defense, it's never really that ideal. So bacgioifro are going to be a little bit annoyed that he's probably lost this tower here, but it's not the end of the world. He's still certainly not out of it, and he's only actually going one archery range, one stable here. So he could be aiming to go for a bit of a faster castle time, though if he does continue adding scouts in like this, it might not be the case at all, as he will slow himself down a little. It looks like bacgioifro has actually got the upper hand in this battle though, as Chris is really starting to run out of units rather quickly. We've got the spearmen trying to focus down the scouts, and then obviously bacgioifro has got his own scouts in there to deal with the skirms of Chris, and now he's got quite a lot of archers in here. He's still not got himself +1. Chris does have +1 attack and defense, and it still wasn't enough to hold off that attack, and bacgioifro here is actually pushing in. He's going to take out the majority of Chris's army, and he's just finished +1 as well, so it's going to force Chris away from gold. He might get a villager pick, though it looks unlikely at the moment, but the main thing here is he's forcing him off gold, and he's forced Chris to build a tower, so now they're definitely on even terms as they build a tower here, and it's both they both spent the same amount of stone on it. I don't know what Chris is doing here though. He's sending villagers over to gold, and they are just getting killed off because they are just walking straight into the path of these units. I think that was probably a little misclick from him, and that is certainly not ideal. So Chris losing a few villagers there already, and he is going to be in a bit of a a little bit of a worse off situation than bacgioifro here. He's had to build a tower, he's been forced off gold, and the aggression has been brought to him. A second archery range going up on the front for bacgioifro, and he might actually continue to keep the pressure on for a while, because if he feels like he can actually get in there and do quite a bit of damage, then he might decide that it's a good idea to keep the pressure on rather than castling up real quick and take out as many villagers as he can. He actually only has 4 villagers on gold at the moment, and I'm pretty sure you need 5 villagers on gold to sustain archer production from both archery ranges. If we actually have a look, he's not making any more archers at all. There we go, he's just adding some in now, but not a huge amount. He's not queuing both up, and that could indicate that he's trying to save a little bit of gold so that he can go up to the castle age. And if you have a look at just how many farms he has, he is definitely going pretty well for food very shortly. Just getting wheelbarrow right now, just before the 20-minute mark. And if he gets wheelbarrow, goes up to castle, I think he's going to be in a really nice situation. He's killed a few villagers, he's destroyed most of Chris's army, and Chris has definitely had a higher resource lost here. He's trying to take down this palisade as well, attacking that with his villager there, just to try and get this watchtower up, because of course if he does finish it, he might actually be able to reach these villagers with that tower, at least pressure this gold a little bit, and Chris's tower is too far back to hit it, and he definitely won't be taking any stone just yet, so it's looking good. Looks like Chris might even have overcompensated a little bit here. Chris is adding a 3rd archery range, and he looks like he's actually going to be trying to go pretty much all out feudal here. But if we have a look at bacgioifro's production, he really isn't actually making that much. He's got 2 archery ranges, making a couple of archers. He's adding a 3rd archery range in, so actually he probably is trying to keep the pressure on a little bit. I thought for a while he stopped creating archers and he wasn't going to put the third archery range up, so he could just go castle and then basically outplay Chris from there. But Chris is obviously throwing up the third archery range now, so he's trying to just make sure he doesn't get too much army inside of his base and lose any more villagers. This palisade wall slowly but surely going down, and bacgioifro just going to use this little hill to his advantage there, that tiny little mound in the ground. It looks like the palisade's about to go down, which does mean that this tower might just go up, and if it does go up, then again, as I said, it's going to pressure this gold and certainly going to slow Chris's production of skirms down. bacgioifro again not queuing. I don't know if he's meaning to not queue these units or if he's just being a little idle with the queuing there, but he's certainly near enough to 800 food and 200 gold that it could be viable. He is going to try and do a faster castle time here, and if we have a look at Chris's eco at the moment, he really doesn't actually have that much resource in the way of food, so he's definitely going to be playing catch up in this position. bacgioifro should get this tower up for sure, and that's going to help him pressure this even more, because this army isn't going to be able to move in without taking arrow fire, and it really just isn't a good thing to have to do, fight under a tower. So the tower's going to go up, and Chris is going to move all of his villagers off of gold there. I don't know if that was a bit of an overreaction, or no, he's just going to go and take gold at the back, which of course is forced Chris to spend an extra 100 wood on a mining camp, which is an extra 100 wood that he could have saved, and now he's actually spending the rest of his stone on creating a little wall off here to stop bacgioifro from getting in. bacgioifro just clicked up to castle. He's probably going to continue making archers throughout, and then he'll upgrade to crossbow and then go for cavalry archers, because of course he does have 3 archery ranges here. He's got his economy set up for that. He's got quite a lot of wood collectors, as you can see. He has, let's have a quick look, 13 lumberjacks right now, and that is a reasonable amount. So he should be able to go for cavalry archers pretty well. The question is though, will he be able to harass Chris enough with the cavalry archers, or will Chris have simply too many skirms and archers to defend with? And he has got +1/+1 already, so that's certainly going to help. But that's bacgioifro, so when he gets up to castle, he'll get bodkin arrows straight away as well, which is obviously the +2, and that's going to help him out. But you can see already that bacgioifro really doesn't have actually that much army. He's certainly not made as much army as Chris, and that's why he's been able to get up to the castle age a little bit faster. If you can make the tech advantage that he's going to get worthwhile, then he is actually going to be in a really good situation. But I think Chris now, he does realise that bacgioifro is upgrading. His scores definitely dipped a little bit, and he can see that he really doesn't actually have that much army, so it definitely looks like Chris is going to push out with a bit of a counter. But I do think by the time he gets over there, I think bacgioifro should be just about up to the castle age and able to defend. He's even making skirms right now, because skirms, they make a pretty good defensive unit. They're good against archers, and they are generally just used in defense, really. They're not an amazing offensive unit, but we see Chris pushing out with them anyway, and he certainly has more of them, so we'll see if bacgioifro can actually defend quite well here. He is going up to castle, and judging by the amount of skirms he was making here, he might upgrade to elite skirmisher when he gets the chance as well. So, you know, cling to this hill, of course. He'd be mad not to, and this is exactly why he put his buildings on top of the hills, because he wanted to have this as his rally point here rather than behind the gold, and then have units on this hill attacking down. But he is going to have to move away from gold right here, and there we go, up to the castle age. What is he going to do? Well, elite skirmisher straight away. I thought he would, and we're not seeing crossbowman just yet. He hasn't got the gold for it, but he is going to make a couple of knights, and I think that'll work out quite well for him indeed. He did have a lot of food and a lot of gold as well, so a couple of knights here is definitely not going to do any harm whatsoever, and we will see elite skirmisher completed in just a sec. Of course, we will also see bodkin arrow in just a second as well, and when those knights come out, they should be able to, in theory, defeat this army with relative ease. So there's bodkin arrow, and elite skirmishers just about to finish up. You see more skirmishers coming out actually, and it looks like he's just going to defend with skirms and then maybe make a few more knights to go and harass Chris with. So yep, elite skirm is done, knights are done, and or out even, and I think now this is where Chris is going to find himself losing the majority of his army, although he's doing a pretty good job of actually focusing down these knights. He's taken out one already, and wow, bacgioifro's economy looking pretty messy here, as he had to move all of those villagers away from gold. He's going to send them back though now, as he is pretty confident, I imagine, that he does have this army killed off pretty much. Still plenty of villagers gathering wood, and judging by the amount of villagers he just took off farms, it looks like he is definitely going to be going for cavalry archer, as he has set his rally point to the gold and over to the wood down here. So cavalry archer are going to be on the way, I think. But at the moment he's just making skirms, and why not? They are pretty damn cheap, and they're pretty good at killing archers, and cavalry archers for that matter. Chris is about to hit the castle age though, and he too has got a lot of wood. He might put a second TC up straight away actually. He has a lot more wood at this stage than bacgioifro did. So he might put up a couple of, well, ATC real quick, but he is definitely going to go for cavalry archers here, chucking up another archery range right there, making it up to 4. And of course now spending that those resources on the cavalry archers, and let's see if he just goes up with a second TC straight away, or if he's actually just going to put a mining camp back here. So he's actually going to wait and be a little bit more aggressive. bacgioifro though still making skirms by the looks of things, and I think that's kind of cool because he was a little bit delayed with taking gold as that attack did come in, and obviously skirms are going to be good against cavalry archers anyway. So I mean, if he brings these into play, when Chris does make cavalry archers, he might have a little bit of an upper hand there. So that's pretty good from him. Still no second TC from either of them, and it looks like bacgioifro is just going to play it really aggressively, which I quite like. If they both stay on 1 TC, then it's going to be really high aggression, constant pushing, and making a lot of military. But if one of them does decide to make a TC, then it could give the other guy a little bit of an upper hand at this stage, because of course that extra resources could be used to make all those important military units that are so required to defend your base. Elite skirmisher coming up for Chris as well. No surprises there really. He had a lot of skirms already out, and he's already seen bacgioifro has got elite skirm himself, so going for elite skirms is a good idea, and he's got enough skirms there to pretty much one-shot all of the cavalry archers, and he'll probably try and focus the cavalry archers and the archers down first, as it's much more of a good idea to take the gold units out first. And of course they're not going to be making a second TC yet, because of course they built the towers, didn't they? So that does mean they have to take a bit of extra stone. One thing for Chris that's not so good though, you just put a gold mine up, or a mining camp, sorry, up on this stone here, and he can't take it because bacgioifro's got his whole army there, his whole army of skirms, which you can easily just one-shot any of these units with. He does have bloodlines though, which means his knights are pretty good at the moment with 120 HP. Again, so does bacgioifro, and if you take out this knight pretty quickly, you should be able to kill off this army from Chris with no worries whatsoever. And bacgioifro is not even taking any stone just yet, I don't think. So he is, oh no, he must have took some. Yeah, he's taking some, so he's going to get his second TC up, and quite possibly a third, as he's the one doing the all the aggression here. He knows he's got the upper hand, as he sees that Chris really doesn't have much army to defend with. Then he's in the position now where he can add another TC, because he's the one doing the attacking and not the defending. So that's pretty good for him. He's getting very far ahead in the score. It's a good 700 points difference at this stage, and this could be a lot of dead villagers up in the north here if bacgioifro brings any more units up. And I didn't want to speak too soon, but Chris has resigned there, making it the first game that bacgioifro has won in their series. And bacgioifro played that pretty well actually. I think he did abuse the fact that Chris's gold was on the front. He did put that tower up, which definitely pressured him a little, to say the least. And Chris was a little bit all over the place there, having to have a lot of villager idle time, having to build a tower in defense, and then having to build another mining camp over here, which of course bacgioifro went straight over to and absolutely destroyed. So pretty well played by him. Makes the series 4-1, which is still quite heavily in favour of Chris, but nevertheless we're going to jump into the next game very shortly.